All right, so what we're going to be covering today is the Print Audit 6 reporting section. So there's two things really that we're going to go through. So we're going to take a look at the analysis reporting tool and the job manager. The simple analysis reporting tool is very similar to the analysis reporting, so we won't be covering that one unless there's any specific questions about that tool. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to go through then is the analysis reporting. So under Print Audit 6, in your Start menu, go under Reporting, and then we'll open up Analysis Reporting. Oh. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so under analysis reporting, once I open that up, we have the printer grouping and filtering, and we have user grouping and filtering. So in my database, I have a whole bunch of demo data and test data available. Okay. So in the analysis reporting, under the printers, once I expand it, it will show us any single printer that we have at one point recorded with Print Audit 6. Okay, so one thing you may need to take a look at is the grouping section. So I will show you how to do grouping both on the printer side and on the user side as well. So what I want to take a look first is some of the report options that we have available. So if I just go under reports and create a report, we have create a new report, which will just build one report for us at a time. We can create a composite report, which is just going to build multiple reports at a time. So we're going to start with create a new report. Okay, so we have about 35 different canned reports available. If you click on one of the reports on the right side, it's going to give you a description of what's in that report. So one of our most popular reports that people pull out of here is our user volumes report. Okay, so I'm just going to click next. So at this point, I don't want to filter report data. I am going to show you what this feature does. It's just a way for removing data that isn't checked in this box on the side. And I also don't want to group report data. So grouping data would just give you a group total. It's not going to show you each individual user under that group. Okay, so for the user volumes report, I'm actually going to pull it based on total cost. Okay, so date range, we'll leave it all. Decimal places, I'm going to change to 2, just so that it's a little bit more readable. Okay, I'm going to click next. So you have the option of changing the title and the subtitle to whatever you want it to be. And then I'll just hit build. Okay, so I'm going to go to the second page. So you can see here we have the volumes. I'm actually just going to recreate that because I want to see the highest cost user on the top. Okay, so this time I'm going to choose descending. Okay, so now on my second page, I can see here my user volumes. So I can see my highest cost user is Kaylee, who is printed only in color, almost 3,500 pages in 43 jobs for a total cost of over $2,500. Okay, so this report is good for us to see. You know, again, it's a way for us to break down who's printing. There's different ways that you can sort the data.
You quit? Did you quit the? I'm trying to get in, but they say that he's passed. Oh.
Someone there, someone on the phone isn't on mute, so we can hear your conversation. If you don't mind muting, please.
Excuse me, Rachel.
Hi.
Do you have a password?
Yes, the password is
Oh, okay. Sorry, I just found it. Yeah,
four
hang on.
six
I
four
think I might
six
have
nine
just found
five.
it. Ah,
Okay.
there we go. I got it. Thanks.
All right, perfect. Okay, so again, just a way for us to see who's printing the most. When we're taking a look at a report like this, it's a good way to analyze what's happening with the printing. So with Kaylee, printing only in color, is this something that she should or that she shouldn't be doing? Perhaps she's in the marketing department and she's printing off brochures. That's what she should be doing. Perhaps she's doing, maybe personal printing that shouldn't be happening all in color, or maybe she just doesn't know how to change her default print driver from color to the black and white. Okay, so any questions on this? Okay, so another report that I'd like to show you. We can take a look at one of these top 10 reports. So we can take a look at top printers by total volume. Okay, so again, I don't want to filter, I don't want to group any of the data. And you can actually change this option to all the way up until the top 30 if you want. Okay, again, you can change the title and the subtitle, and I'll just go ahead and build. So on my second page, I can see here a list of printers by the total volume. So this is really showing us, are the print jobs going to the most efficient devices that are out there? So this HP LaserJet 5 SI, maybe not. I'm not too sure if this is just a desktop printer or if this is a larger MFP. Okay. So this is just going through the different pages here. Okay, so any questions on that? Okay, so another popular report that we see people pull quite often, and there's two ways that you can set it up. We have user printing breakdown, which is going to show you the user and which printers that they're printing to, or we can do that in reverse where we have printer to user breakdown. So it's going to show us which printer and then who's printing to that machine. So again, this is just a way for us to hopefully try to right size what's happening in that print environment. So I'll start with the printer to user breakdown. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and build. Okay, so when I look at this printer here, I know it doesn't really say the name, but we can see the three people who are actually printing to this. So is this one that maybe is not getting as much traffic as, we originally thought it was, or maybe that's where we want to direct more traffic, or maybe we look at something like this HP LaserJet and we want to push volumes away from that device. Okay. So we can see that this is a pretty popular printer here. Okay, so any questions on this report? All right, so a couple other things I'm going to show you about this. So you do have the option of changing this print audit logo on the report. You just go under Tools, Set Report Logo, you browse to your logo file, and then you can upload that here. We do have a knowledge base article online, which is going to give you the dimensions of what this image needs to be. If anyone is interested in doing that. Okay, so we also have the option of exporting any of these reports that we've created. So to export a report, you just go up to Tools, Reports, and Export Report. Depending on the report type, you do have different options with how you can export. So for this one, I have a text file, HTML, PDF, and RAW, so CSV file. Most commonly, a PDF is what we see being used. If you are going to export into a text file or a CSV file, just be aware that the columns that you see in this report may not match up exactly the same in the same order as when you do the export. Okay, so normally doing like a CSV export or a text export, that's usually best to be done within the job manager. You just have a little bit more control over the data you want to see and the format that you want to see it in. And then we also have the option in there to include the column header for each column that we're exporting. Okay, and the other thing that we can do is we can schedule the report. So what we can do is we can have these reports emailed out to whoever you want them emailed out to. A good example of this being used is when you have departmental reporting. So what would happen is we'll set up the grouping, which I'm going to show you how to do next. We're going to set up the grouping, and then we're going to create a new report for each different department. And let's say on the first of every month, we would then export this data, or sorry, create this report and have it emailed out to the department head on the first of every month for the previous month, just so that they can see how much their department is actually printing and the cost associated with that. Okay, so any questions on that? All right. So the next thing I'm going to show you is how to create groups. So I'm going to start by grouping some of my PDF writers here. So I'm just going to highlight one device here. I'm going to go to Groups, Create, Add to Group. So I'm going to create a new group name. So I'm going to name this Paperless Printing. Okay, so now at the top, I have my Paperless Printing group, and I have my one printer underneath it. So I can go back and add some more devices to this. And this time we'll add it to an existing group. We'll add it to Paperless Printing. Okay, so now we have more devices underneath that group. Okay, so you can continue on through the process and you can add them all to the group. You can add in your XPS document writers if you have that in here as well as if you don't want to track any fax printing, or perhaps you don't want to take a look at label printing. This is another place that you can add them in. So after we've created the groups here, so again, I've created printer groups, what I can do is if I uncheck my paperless printing group, meaning I don't want to include any of these printers within this paperless printing group on my reports because it's not actually costing money. All we're doing is creating a file with that. So now what I could do is go under Reports and Create Report. If I create a new report, so this time, let's say I want to create a printer volumes report. If I choose to filter the report data, that is going to remove all of these unchecked printers from my group or from my report. Again, I'm going to uncheck group report data, sort by printer name, and now I can build that report. So now none of those printers that are in that group should be included in this report. Okay, so any questions on this? All right. So we can also create groups under user grouping and filtering the same way. So let's say these I want to add into one group. And I'm going to name this the sales group. Okay, so now, again, I have a different group. So this would be maybe more of your departmental reporting or based on different buildings that the users are in, whatever makes sense for that customer environment. Okay, so any questions on that? Anything that we've covered so far? Okay, so the next thing that we're going to take a look at then is the job manager. And I guess maybe before we move on, any groups that you create in the analysis reporting, you can only use them in the analysis reporting tool. You're not able to use them in the job manager. They don't move that way. So if I open up my job manager now, so the analysis reporting tool is really your high-level overview report. You can't really get very granular with the data that you're seeing there compared to what we have with the job manager, where this is where we can get very granular with the reports that we want to pull. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the Find Jobs button. Okay, so I have a list of all of my print jobs that I have recorded in here. So you can search by any data that you want. So we have the date printed, so you can choose whatever you want. If you want to choose custom, you just put in whatever date range that you're looking for. You can look for one specific user, or if you create groups, we can match on reporting group for either user or printer, and we can match just on one printer. In this case, I am using custom fields, which is these options that you see here. So if this is going into a law firm, they can just report, let's say, on one client number and pull a report just for that. So the other thing I want to show you is how to create a view. So if I right-click on any one of these column headers, I can see the 35 different pieces of information that we can track. So you can choose to view or not view certain data right on this first page that you see here. Okay, so you can see that I've changed that. The other thing that you can do is you can drag and drop the columns around if you want them in a different order. Once you find a view that you like, you have the option of saving that data view. So I'll just name it Rachel. Okay, so this is the view that I've created for myself. If I go back to default, that's just how it was when I opened it. And then again, I can go back up to Rachel in here, and now I can see my view. Anybody who has the job manager can create their own view. So if you have someone like, let's say, an accountant compared to, an administrator, they may want to see different bits of data within the job manager itself. Okay, so the other thing I'm going to show you in the job manager is how to create groups. So, sorry, is there a question? Okay, so if I go under Edit, I can create a user group or a printer group. So this time I'll create user groups. So these are existing groups that I have based on an Active Directory import that I did on my Print Audit 6 database. But you can also manually create groups. So I'm just going to hit the Add button. I can name the group. So I'll just name this Sales Team. Then we can add members. So say we'll grab these list of users. Save that. I'll create another group here. This time we can name it HR. And then you also have the option of making it public. If you make it public, anybody else who has the job manager installed would have access to these same groups. If you leave it unchecked, obviously only your own job manager would have access to that group. Okay, so add a couple more people here. And then we'll create one more group and name it IT. Okay, we'll save that. Okay, so I have the groups that I've created here. Okay, so any questions on creating groups? Okay, so now that I have those groups created for the user, what I can do is match on reporting group, and what I can do is just pull print jobs for anybody who's in this HR group, and now I would be able to create a report just for this these group of users. Again, with creating these reports, you can also have these scheduled and emailed out to people as well. So any questions on that? Okay, so what we'll go through now is creating a report. So we do have 3 different report types available. So a summary report is going to allow you to report on 3 fields of data, and it's just going to give you a total. You're not going to see each individual print job with that. Then we have a full details and totals, which will allow you to report on up to 5 fields of data. We have a little trick where we can get up to 8, so I'll show you how to do that. With those reports, they can get quite large. Again, just because you're seeing details about every single printer copy job that's happening within the system. And then we have details only, which will only give you the details. So you're not going to get any totals put on that report. And again, you can report on up to 5 fields of data on this one. So I'm going to start by showing you how to create a summary report. So a popular one that we see, let's say for a law firm, is we want to report on client number. And we'll take a look at the printer. So unit totals, we want to show the black and white and color pages. We want to separate that out. We're going to show the job cost total, show the job count totals. And we're going to subtotal on the first choice, which is our client number. But we don't need a page break in this case. Okay, so we can click next. So again, you have your title and your subtitle, so you can name it something differently if you want to. Any questions on this? Okay, so I'm actually going to save and build this. So I'm going to say client report. And what we're doing is just saving the template here. Okay, so we can see here some of these jobs just didn't have a client number associated with them. So let's try to find a page that has that. Okay, there we go. So we can see we have a client number with the client description, with the printer that we printed to, the total number of black and white pages, total color pages, total jobs, and then the total cost. So law firms use this quite often for using this almost like a billing report. Okay, at the very end of the report, we can see the grand total. Okay, so any questions on this report? Okay, so we'll create one more report. Another popular report we see is if we create a summary report again, we can look at the user, we can look at the process name. Actually, we're going to do this one as a full details and totals. So we'll do user again. Take a look at the printer. Process name. And then we'll go all the way down to the document name. So for first choice, we want to sort this based on user. So I said that we could get up to 5 fields of data. So if we wanted the 8 fields of data, we can add one more in here. But then when we're looking at our first choice, second choice, third choice, you can add additional information in here that would add it as another column on the report. Okay, so we'll click next. So unit totals, again, let's see the black and white and color pages, but you can see here we do have quite a few different options. We want to show the job cost total, show the job count totals. We're going to subtotal for the first choice, which would be user. Because this report is going to be quite a bit larger, we are going to add in a page break for this, so every user would be on a new page. And I am going to repeat the header. Okay, so we'll go ahead and build. You can see that these reports get very, very large. So typically when we're pulling reports like this, we are limiting the type of data that we're looking for. So if it was just for one user, then we wouldn't have 300 pages for that. So we can see the user, we can see the printer that she's been printing to, and then we can see the process name with the document name. So this is a good way for us to see. So if we were to, let's say, look at Internet Explorer here, we can then see what type of information she's printing. Are these actual valid websites for work that she's printing to? Or is she maybe printing off of Craigslist or Google Maps or something like that? Okay, so any questions on this? Okay, so again, you can change these report logos and the job manager. So you again just go under Tools, Set Report Logo, and then you can put that on your report. You can do that as yours or as your customer's logo. Okay, so the other thing I want to show you is we've created these groups here under the users. So what we can do is we can go into our analysis reporting tool. If we go under groups and import simple groups, what this is going to do is any groups that we've pulled in either from Active Directory or that we've manually created in the job manager, we can move them over into here. So I normally recommend always creating the groups in the job manager and then putting them in to the importing them into the analysis reporting. That way we just are able to create the groups once rather than having to do that twice. So we can see here all of our users now are grouped in the different groups. Okay. Any questions on that? Okay, so if we go back to the job manager here, any reports that we're creating in here, you have the option of exporting the report. Under here, you have the option of HTML or a PDF file. If you want to create a CSV file, we did cover this a little bit in the last session. What you can do is go to Tools, Export Results, go to Configurations, and then you have the options here of choosing which fields of data you actually want to create in an export file and save. Okay. The other thing that we can do that I mentioned is you can go under Tools, or sorry, Reports and Schedule a Report. Okay, so what I need to do is just limit my date range here. Okay, and then we'll create a new report. So that first summary report that I created, that's right here. So I wouldn't have to go through and recreate that again. The template, all I can do is just click the report, hit build. Okay, so now I can schedule this and have it emailed out. Go to schedule report, and now I can put in the name and my email settings and have this emailed to whoever I need to email it to as often as I need to. Okay, so this will just create a Windows scheduled task. So you can just go into your task scheduler and modify that if you need to run it more than once a day. All right, so any questions on any of the reporting stuff? Okay, so the one other thing I am going to show you how to do is how to create a JBS file. So this is just a way for us to export the data into a JBS file so that we can upload that information into our Print Audit Insight tool, which I'm sure many of you have spoken to Paul Georgie about that. So to do that, we're going to open up the Job Merge Wizard. So again, just go under Print Audit 6, Advanced Tools, and then Job Merge Wizard. Okay, so I am going to export my jobs now. You can also set up scheduled exports if you want to. So if this is something you're doing with your customer on a monthly basis or a quarterly basis, you can just set that up here. Okay, so this is just the database I'm connected to. So in this case, I'm going to export the jobs only. I will export all the jobs in the database, but you have the option of just exporting new jobs since the last export. So a good example of this would be like if you were doing the insight reports on a quarterly basis, what we would do is just export for the next 3 months and leave the previous data alone. Or we can just export the data that's printed on or after a specific date. So the job merge code, I always recommend just making this the customer name, especially if you're going to be doing this quite often. That way you're not confusing which job merge file goes with which customer. Okay, so I'm going to choose where I want to export this to. So put it on my desktop. I'm going to name it again the customer name. Okay, so this JBS format is a custom format. It is proprietary to Print Audit 6. With this JBS file, it is an encrypted file, so if you were trying to open it after it's been exported, you're not actually going to be able to read any of the data in there. So it is a secure file. Okay, so I'm going to hit finish. So now I will be exporting all of the data that I have here. So what I have on my desktop is I have my JBS file and I have my codes file. So we need this code file in order to upload the data into our Insight tool. Okay, so if you're sending the data to Paul Georgie, just make sure you're sending him both of these files. Okay, so any questions on reporting at this point? All right. Well, I guess that's all I have to show you today. So I will hang on the line for a little while longer. And then if you want a copy of the recording session, just let me know. You can either just put it into the chat or send myself an email. Okay, and my email is just rbarker@printaudit.com. Thank you everyone for attending today.